All right, hi everyone. Welcome to my first live Facebook Live video. So bear with me here while I figure out any technical difficulties, but I wanted to take some time and talk about some desk postures since we've been getting a lot of questions from our patients about it. Everyone right now is working from home. And so what I wanted to do was address some of the postural things we see a lot of when we do any sort of postural assessments at work, or if we see people working from home. We do a lot of telehealth as well now, and so seeing what people's actual setup looks like has been really helpful for us to be able to diagnose and see what some of the issues are that people tend to have. So we're going to probably go over about 6 different spots throughout the body. I know I originally talked about neck pain, but low back pain is another big one that we see a lot of after sitting at the desk all day. I know a lot of people are probably hanging out and doing work on their couch too, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and from wherever other areas that they might be doing. So next thing I'm going to go over too, after we talk about what this should look like, I actually want to I've got a great program that actually has some awesome anatomy in it. So I'm actually going to go over some of that as well. Here at DPT, we love to make sure that people understand the why behind what we're doing. And so the more we can explain what we see from a musculoskeletal point of view, the better we can describe why we're doing these exercises, what we're doing, why we're doing something that's going to help, or what we think it's going to affect. So anytime during this podcast, for sure, just send a little question that you might have. I'm going to do a little Q&A at the end as well, but if you want to comment throughout, go nuts. If I don't get to it right on time, we will circle back to it for sure, because I'd love to hear your comments, questions, concerns, all those sorts of things. So I kept pushing this back because, life is crazy and sometimes schedules just don't work out the way they're supposed to. But also, that means now that it's 1 o'clock, you've had all morning to hang out in whatever posture you might be doing and to get nice and sore or bothered by it, and then tune in and see what you can do about it. So a couple different things. We're going to start from the floor and work our way up, basically. So the first thing I want to show, and we're a little low here, so I can't show you that, but feet should both be on the floor. Everyone is guilty of doing a lot of this, doing some of this action. What that does, it takes our pelvis and it pulls it out of place a little bit. So the best thing you can do is keep both feet flat on the floor the entire time. Next thing you want to look at, if I'm coming over here, is, and I stole Dr. Tom's nice chair because usually I hang out on a stool, but you want your knees to be at about a 90-degree angle from the floor. So looking at where my chair is right now, I would actually benefit from bringing it down just a little bit. What that does, it helps actually take some of the pressure off your spine. If it's too high, if I can find my thing again, we end up leaning forward a little bit to get our feet on the ground, or we end up doing one of these to get our feet on the ground, or this. So again, really working on trying to center our center of gravity down over our hips so that we're not asking our low back to support us while we're hanging out at the computer all day long. So let me put me down to right about where I should be. All right, like I said, go ahead and pop up and ask any questions you might have throughout. So the next one we're going to look at is torso and lumbar. A lot of people have in their desk, they have that, it's not quite as popular now, but lumbar supports, things that go right in the small of our back. Now, if you feel like that's supportive, great. The issue we see with those sometimes is it tends to accentuate this curve too much in our back. What this does, if you imagine gravity pushing straight down my spine, if we start to put a huge curve through here, now all of that gravity is pressing right down in this area that's especially curved. What we want to do is actually tilt our pelvis so we're right underneath our shoulders again. So what that's going to look like is make sure that you can sit back and have your back straight up against the chair. If you feel like your chair's too deep, you can put something behind this to also support yourself. The other thing you don't want to see or do that we see a lot of, and everyone's guilty of this, is if you feel like your chair is too long, we'll do a lot of this and we'll end up hanging out in this position. Once again, if we think about what gravity is doing, gravity is coming right through the top of my head, and now it's pushing still on this same area right through here. Now all I've done is curve the opposite way I've had before, but I'm still now creating extra pressure going from my head down my spine. I will tell you, this is the spot where a lot of people hang out in. So the best thing you can do is try and really be cognizant of where knees are as related to where the end of your desk chair is. If you feel like you have to try a couple different chairs around your house, go for it. Kitchen chairs, whatever you got. So a lot of, obviously, not all of us are set to work from home to the capacity that most people in the nation currently are. So guessing and checking and trying to problem solve is really going to be your best bet. That office chair that you've had sitting in your office that you don't use may not be the best option for how you're going to support yourself as you work however many hours a day you're going to work. So working our way up from lumbar spine, let's go up to thoracic spine or mid-back through here. The other thing we see a lot of as we hang out on this desk all day long is a lot of slouching and forward posture like this. I just went to PT school for 3 years. This is where I lived. But really working on what's going to be really important is working on getting that chest up and straightening up. So I'm really lucky because I have a standing desk here. So what I can do is I can move this sucker around however I need it to be. So for the purpose of showing you where we want our desk to be ideally in relation to our shoulders is we want to have, again, this 90-degree curve in our elbows. What we don't want is way up here, or if I'm sitting up a little bit more, way down here either. So I'm lucky because I get to hang out like this, but if you have an issue trying to get to this position because you don't have any sort of desk that moves up and down, which, again, most of us don't, something you can do is you can also prop up your computer on some textbooks, your keyboard on some textbooks, those sorts of things, as well as your mouse. A lot of people have wireless mouses now. Try and make sure that that mouse is not way out here, way in here. You want to think about everything from an ergonomic perspective. So if you can think about keeping everything within your reach and your body so you don't have to then lean one way or the other, because this is going to get really tiring after a while. You really want to think about keeping everything within a zone that doesn't require you to lean outside of that zone. That all make sense? I'm sure it does. Good. I ask my patients that a lot. I'm constantly checking in with my patients to see if what I said makes sense, if they have any questions. And so I'm probably going to do that a lot, even though I know a lot of you can't really answer me either. So like I said, bear with me. Facebook Live is something new for me. So the other thing, too, that I wanted to address as well when I said that I have a standing desk, which is going to go back up a little bit, too, is, standing desks are kind of the big buzzword right now, right? They're like the new kale. Like everyone's decided that standing desks are where it's at, and if you're sitting, you're dying. If you're standing, you're going to live forever. The problem with that is a lot of people don't realize if you're sitting in this posture, you're going to stand in this posture too. So if we don't affect the imbalances that actually cause this to be your baseline, you're going to see the same thing when you're standing, and then you're just going to be on your feet doing it. So really being cognizant of if you do have a standing desk or want some sort of way to stand and sit and move around during the day with your office setup, be really cognizant of what that looks like when you're standing as well. Because a lot of times people think, hey, I stood up, I'm good to go, I'm being healthy, all that sort of stuff. But the main important thing is to think about how you're standing and tuning in on what those muscles feel like and what you feel like you're doing correctly or incorrectly. So let's see, we've talked about some arm spots. Let's talk about that thoracic spine a little bit more. Like I said, this becomes important with how we support our arms or our shoulders, because our arms will direct where our shoulders tend to go. If things are down here, we're going to see some of this, and you're going to see some of this curving in your back. If things are up here, you might see some of this with chin tipped up to try and see your computer monitor. So that's our next big thing, and I'm sure everyone has heard this at some point about your computer monitor, how far it should be away from you. Is it 12 inches? Is it 18 inches? Whatever. The big thing is to think about what is it doing to your neck, because everyone, we've heard the term desk neck, where you're hanging out in this position all day. Now, if you look at me in this position, it's familiar of a couple things we've already addressed, with shoulders forward, arms up too much, thoracic spine curved, and subsequently lumbar spine also curved. And so if we think about, just if nothing else, think about working on keeping our neck and our head in line. What that does is it works all the way down the chain. So this is my last and final point as far as getting all the way up to the head and the neck. This is what we see the most of. There's been a lot of studies out lately about how we're all on our phones all the time and our computers all the time. And this is like the new normal for everyone, just hanging out here all day, every day. So the idea behind this, and there's a couple different reasons, is we have big muscles and we have small muscles in our body. The small muscles are meant to stabilize, the big muscles are meant to move. But we have things like our upper trap, which I'll show you in a second, which are huge muscles, and they tend to take over for a lot of other muscles. Our body will always take the path of least resistance, and that's why this becomes an easy thing to do. We have to fight gravity all day, every day, and that's a tough fight that you're not going to win. So you have to make sure you're well equipped to keep fighting that good fight all day, every day. So the big thing to remember, we're going to dive into this a little bit more, is we're going to talk a little bit more about neck posture. Your head weighs about as much as a bowling ball. So that means if you bring your head out here, all these muscles in your neck now have to support somewhere between 8 to 12 pounds all day. And that's going to get really tiring. What that's going to do is it's going to start to stretch all your muscles back here and overtax them, and you're going to see more and more of this and less use of the muscles we're supposed to use. So the next thing I want to talk about, because I think it tends to make more sense if I show you the muscles we usually target when we look at some of these things. The other big thing actually that I see a lot of with this neck posture is this actually translates to performance as well. What happens is we see a lot of people that like to lift weights and do upper body weights is if they can't hang out here on their computer, they can't hang out here when they're lifting weights either. And what ends up happening is they start to do some of this to get that heavy weight up, being really heavy on the upper traps, not using the other muscles in their back to support themselves, not using arm muscles correctly, and all of a sudden this becomes where they live when they work and when they work and when they work out. So this leaks into every other aspect of your life, because if you're trying to do this all day long, chances are you're missing a ton of power and you're missing a ton of strength. So this is something that we want to focus on and make sure that we can carry it over into other aspects of our life. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to bring you over here so I can show you my essential anatomy. It's a program we use when we talk to our patients about, bear with me, good, now you don't be so close to me. When we talk to our patients about some of the pathology that we see, and we try to explain to them what we're going to do next. So let me stabilize this so it's not all over the place. Great. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is what I mentioned a couple times. That's this big old upper trap right here. Like I said, our body will always take the path of least resistance, and this muscle is huge. This muscle, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to shrug our shoulders up, and that's why a lot of times when you feel tight in your neck, in your shoulders, you feel like your shoulders are starting to rise up towards your ears. Let me see if I can put this on here a little bit. That's better. Okay, so this muscle is supposed to, bear with me here guys, yeah, nice. This muscle, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to shrug our shoulders. When it gets tight, it tends to perpetually shrug our shoulders, and that's when we start to see shoulders coming up and up around our ears and coming closer and closer to our chest. The reason it does that is because it is a very big muscle. The muscles that are supposed to support our neck are underneath that muscle. So we see a lot of little muscles all through here, and then all of our other tiny little, what we call our deep neck flexors all through here. All these muscles are the ones that are supposed to actually support us as we keep our neck upright and on top of our shoulders and not pulling forward. What happens is we see that upper trap, and then we see this other muscle called your SCM start to take over. This SCM, if you can see the line of pull here, what it does is it pulls your head forward over your chest. So if this is overworking and these guys are not working at all, you're going to see an imbalance, and you're going to see this head starting to come forward in that direction. Last thing we see is, again, if I pull up that upper trap again, big old guy over all of these muscles. If we come off of that now, we see all of our rhomboids and some of our smaller muscles back here. These muscles are meant to help support our shoulders and keep our shoulder blades back. If that upper trap that covers them is overworking, these will turn off. Any muscle that's overworking means that it's working harder for another muscle, and if that muscle is not being used, it's going to turn off and it's going to get weak. And that's oftentimes what we see, is we see this weakness in these muscles that lie below our upper trap, which causes a lot of postural instabilities and postural issues down the road. So what I want to do from here is, because at DPT we like to not only explain the problem, but we like to solve the problem, is, bring it back over here. I want to show you a couple of good exercises, especially to work on this neck. So, first one, what you're going to need is a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. I like a lacrosse ball because it's a little bit more aggressive. If you feel like it's too uncomfortable, you can always do a tennis ball. What you're going to do is you're going to take this lacrosse ball and you're going to put it right up here at the very top of your neck, where you can find some of those small muscles that connect your neck to your skull. This is a very common place where people will say, ooh, you know, I had a headache after looking at my screen all day. It kind of came back here and it wrapped around. That's oftentimes what we see. It's because these tiny muscles and these tiny neck flexors are all really tight. We don't want to roll right through here, so let's work an attack on the back instead. So what that's going to look like is you're going to put your lacrosse ball here, and then all you're going to do is you're going to roll in tiny little motions back and forth, focusing on any areas that feel like they're really tight. This is a bit of a tough position to do. You can also do this on the ground lying down. That is more aggressive, and so if it's uncomfortable, you can do it this way. The other thing you can do is you can put this guy in a pillowcase. Because this makes it a little easier to do as well. Then you can hold on to this, because sometimes they tend to squeeze out, and work through here. Now, let's work down the waist, because the other place we see is we see tight shoulders from hanging out in this position all day. So same thing, you can use your lacrosse ball right in here and work on massaging all of this tissue in the back of your shoulder as well. Same drill, you can use your body and come back and forth. And all you're doing is you're hunting for some of those tight spots that you always feel like, oh, I've got that one spot that if I could just massage it out, I'd feel so much better. Everyone's got one of those somewhere in their upper trap. And so what you're searching for is some of those spots to slowly work on. When you find a spot that feels like it's a spot that could use some work and attention, I want you to take a deep breath in and all the way out. The other thing you can do, since we're working on our shoulder muscles, instead of using your trunk and moving your trunk, you can move your arm and work on some of the muscles that way. This is a really great one to do before work, after work, whenever you're feeling really, really tight. The other ones I want to show you, so that's a great mobility drill. What I also want to do is I want to show you a couple of really quick exercises you can do in your chair all day, every day. First one is called chin tucks. It is the world's least attractive exercise, but one of the most effective. Like I said, we tend to hang out in this position all day. That's because that SCM muscle that I pointed out, the one that you can see in a lot of people, really tight, and you can see it's even kind of accentuated in my neck as well. It pulls us forward in this position. So what we need to do is we need to counter that with all of our tiny deep neck muscles that are supposed to be holding us here. So this chin tuck exercise, what it is you're going to first sit up nice and tall, and then you're going to take your chin and you're just going to pull it back like you're giving yourself a double chin. So looking from the front, even though I hate to do this, it looks like this from here, bringing your chin back. Hold for a count of 3 and then relax. From the side, pull, hold for a count of 3 and then relax. And again. I tell all my patients, this is one you can do in your car. Every time you get to a stoplight, that's your cue to pull out some of these. You'll bang out 30 by the time you get home. This is an endurance exercise. All these tiny muscles are endurance muscles. They need to be able to hold our head up for a long period of time. So the more you can do in a day, the better. If you can get up to, I usually tell my patients 3 sets of 1,000,000, but if you can at least do 30 a day, you're in good company and putting yourself in good shape to start supporting that neck instead of hanging out here. So now we've worked on some neck posture. Now what I want to do is I want to start working on some shoulder and some thoracic spine posture too. So the name of the game is just opening everything up. When we hang out here, we hang out in this closed off position all day long. Either this one or this one. Either way, these shoulders are coming forward and we're hanging out here. Like I talked about before, those rhomboids and some of those other muscles underneath the upper trap getting lengthened, they then get weakened as well too. So let's work on starting to educate and reuse these muscles that forget how to work when our upper trap is doing all the work for them. So this one is called scap retractions. And all it is you're, once again, going to assume this good posture, and then you're going to think about squeezing the bottom tips of your shoulder blades together. So from the side, it'd look like this. from the front, look like this. Now, the common mistake that people make is as they bring their shoulders back, they bring their head forward. That's cheating. You want to keep that head back and then just have shoulders come backwards as well. So from here and back, here and back. And none of this, you know, is totally groundbreaking stuff. I'm not showing you anything crazy gym exercises because I want to make sure that you can do these things at home, at your desk, while you're working, while you're watching your kids, while you're doing whatever it is where you're stuck in the place you're stuck. So almost everyone has some sort of tennis ball or something they can use to roll around with. Everyone's got shoulders and a neck. So this is easy stuff to do. When you start to feel any sort of tension all around here, that's your time to cue in and say, hey, am I hanging out in this position? How long have I been here? What does my desk setup look like? Do I need to recorrect and bring myself back through here? Research tells us that it takes 300 reps of something to teach your body something new. It takes 3,000 reps to actually replace an old habit with a new habit. So hanging out in this position is one we've been pretty comfortable and familiar with for a while. So getting yourself to change into this position is going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of repetitions. You're going to slip out of it a lot. It's all about just reminding your body, hey, can I hang out here for a little bit longer and a little bit longer? So that's going to be some of the big tips, is just chin tucks, scapular retractions, and then your lacrosse ball too. What we're trying to do with that lacrosse ball is we're trying to down-regulate all these muscles that have been so tight for so long. So in order of appearance, if you're going to do these exercises, I would do the lacrosse ball first, then the chin tucks, then the scap retractions, because what we're working on is we're down-regulating that upper trap, and then we're starting to activate the muscles that have been taken over for so long. All these muscles that need to get woken up again, those deep neck flexors, those rhomboids, all of these muscles through here. So those are some of our hot tips on how to combat some of that neck pain that comes with sitting at your desk all day. If you're sitting on your couch all day long with your laptop in your lap, really think about, if nothing else, taking a pillow or something, putting that pillow up so that you can raise that laptop up just a little bit. Better yet, if you can do something at least at the kitchen table or on a counter, something that's not going to cause you to be in this position all day long. Like I said, we see a lot of people like this, a lot of people with desk jobs, and like I said, a lot of people who are lifters who have managed to hurt their shoulder or their back because they've translated this posture into trying to move heavy weight. And now when you're asking your body to do an even heavier task or an even more dynamic task, you're putting yourself up for injury. So shoot me off any questions you might have, comments, concerns, anything like that. We're here right now. We're not closing down, so we've got time to educate the public, which is what we love to do. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed. I wanted to do a Q&A if anyone does have any questions. I wrote myself some notes too. But if you do have neck issues, shoulder issues, back issues, anything, just shoot us a comment on here. We've got plenty of other exercises we can send you. Tell me if there's anything else you want to see here. We can do different videos, which we've got some stuff in the lineup too right now. This is where we thought we'd start since we know everyone's at home working on their computer. But we've got lots of good ideas, but we'd love to hear from you guys too about what you feel is important to you and what you would love to see. So let us know if you thought this video was helpful too at all. It was my first one, so I guess we're doing okay. I don't know, but give us some feedback and let me know what you thought. And like I said, give us any sort of ideas of what you want to hear on here too, because we're happy to talk about anything that you guys want to hear. So thanks for watching, and we will regroup soon. Thanks, guys.